This is what happens when young America takes a look at every corner of your world, whether it's on Capitol Hill or the newest thing online, from education to the hottest new trend. Filmed in front of a live studio audience with your peers and your thoughts on your terms, bringing you diverse reality in print, airwaves, and now on TV. This is the Teen Forum Show.
And we are live, everybody, from BC High School, live with the Teen Forum Show out here, where we are so glad to have our sponsors, the Cycle Center, as well as Grecian Gardens. Not to mention that we've got some great performances coming up for you from BC High School, including their jazz band, as well as their cheerleaders and ROTC. We're here with our regular panel of co-hosts, including John Anderson, Ferris Kinnett. We've got Homa Hassan, and everybody in the gang. My name is Dan Fenner, and today's topic is going to be about privacy and your personal right to privacy. It turns out that a panel from within the White House has recently decided that 2 of President Bush's domestic spying plans are in fact not a violation of your civil liberties. Many of the Democrats, however, in the House tend to disagree because of the close ties to President Bush that this White House panel had. Now, my big question to you guys here, and I'm going to kick it off with John Anderson on mic 2, is that do you really think that regardless of what this White House panel said, do you really think that you are having your privacy infringed upon by these private domestic spying programs?
Well, Dan, you know, as a true conservative, as a Reagan conservative, I believe in the right to privacy. I think what you do in your own bedroom, your own house, what you do outside of high school or your college or elementary school life is your own business. I'm sick and tired of people telling me what to do with my own personal life, and I do think that this is a slight infringement on my freedom. I understand that the Bush administration is trying to prevent terrorism, and I can understand tapping international calls between countries like Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia that come into or leave the United States. That I get. But when you start pouncing on innocent American citizens simply because of their ethnicity, skin color, their phone records, etc., I have a big problem with that, and I think some of the people in the audience are going to have a problem with that too.
All right, well, I understand that the government wants to protect us, and so when I say that, I think that it's a good idea for certain wiretaps in certain situations to go on. We are a country that's been attacked and hasn't been attacked a lot, so we want to prevent that from happening. We're not used to people dying on our soil. So these things that they're doing as far as the spying, as far as checking your phone records, as far as looking at your emails and stuff like that, I think it's important to understand that they're not just going to pick, you guys. You're not going to say, hey, we see this guy over here, and we think that he might be a terrorist, so we're going to look at his emails. It's not like that. They're not going to just single you out like that. They're going to look and see if you have any past that's just questionable. I think that we're not understanding what the government's trying to do and how it's trying to protect us.
Okay, but Dante, that does happen regardless. People are being profiled just because of their ethnicity, and I'm surprised to say this, but John's absolutely right. Americans aren't used to being profiled this way, to being tracked this way until recently. This is something that's come about in this administration.
John, I'm really surprised that you actually think that this is something that the American people, should be upset about and something that the government should not be doing. That, seriously, really surprises me. But Dante, going back to what you said about how it's not something that America's used to. We're not used to having people die on our soil from attacks from other countries, and I completely agree with you. It's not something that we as American citizens are used to. So I think that the government and George Bush has every right to be overly cautious and want to wiretap people that are, American citizens or might be just living in America who have been making those sketchy calls like to, Afghanistan and Iraq and everything, and who have been checking out those books about how to make a bomb out of the library. I think we kind of have the right to check out what those people are up to.
Ferris has a good point here. Now, the Bush administration, when they initially announced these plans to the public, like the Patriot Act and warrantless wiretapping, they had good reason. Isn't it that we actually have to do some research? Isn't it that we actually have to do some investigatory legwork to be able to find terrorist plots within the United States? Let's not forget that the September 11th attackers didn't fly over here from another country to hit our country. They flew from within our soil to get us. Deanna Santora?
Yeah, but see, the problem with that is, we can say that all we want, but that's such a few amount of people. And how come that just because there's those few people, all of us deserve our rights taken away? I mean, we're just high school kids. If we want to make a call to Afghanistan, why can't we make a call to Afghanistan without worrying about the government listening to our conversation? I mean, what if you just want to do that? You live in America, you can make those kind of choices. choices, can't you? If you're curious about how to make a bomb, I don't know why you would be. That doesn't mean you're going to make one. That doesn't mean you're a terrorist. Maybe you're interested in chemistry. That doesn't mean the government has any right to look into everything about your life, monitor everything about your life. And one other thing that we've seen is this administration with the Patriot Act, they've abused it. They've labeled the Carolina Peace Resource Center and the Teachers Association as terrorists. No, there's a problem. The monitoring that they're doing and the wiretapping they're doing is ridiculous, and it should not be going any farther than it has right now.
You know, Deanna, I love it when you get on the microphone because you just spout this propaganda about the Bush administration that oh, we're going to declare teachers' unions as terrorists, which is completely false, okay? But you do bring up a good point, and my point is power. It's all about power and who watches the people that watch you. That's my argument. How much would it suck to have some guy come in wearing black suit, black sunglasses, come in and search your locker just because your last name has an Arabic sound, or just because you looked up something on Google last night? We're talking about the trickle-down effect here, people. How long is it going to be before we stop prosecuting only terrorists and start prosecuting American citizens?
You know, I don't think we're going to start prosecuting American citizens, and I don't know how many high school students are actually saying, oh, dude, let's Google a bomb and see how we make it, because, I mean, it would just be cool to see how we make a bomb. Honestly, I would rather be doing something else like playing video games. But, I mean, like, I think that Deanna is also spitting that propaganda that that John so eloquently put it. You know, we're talking about an administration that wants to protect the people, not to mention the fact that the people don't care about the administration that's trying to protect them. And Deanna thinks that, oh, everything is going to be okay if we just don't check our American citizens. Well, there are people who commit treason. Like, we have plenty of people who commit treason, and just because they're American citizens doesn't mean that they won't turn on America. It's happened before, and I'm quite sure it'll happen again.
So just because there are those few people, everyone in this room should be monitored. Everyone in this room, just because they decide to do one thing, they can be watched. Their phones, their conversations can be monitored no matter what they're saying, whether it's terrorist activity or not. And what are you talking about? It hasn't happened yet. And when it gets to that point that it won't. Have you guys heard of the Brett Bursey trial? The guy that was protesting, and he wasn't in the free speech zone. And because he wasn't in the free speech zone, he was a terrorist. He wasn't even Arabic. He was a white guy who was against the war, and he wasn't in a free speech zone, so he is a terrorist. I don't know about you guys, but I thought America was a free speech zone, and that's why I'm so proud to be here. And so when you see the actions that this government has started to do, no, it already has gone too far, and we can't let it go any farther.
Well, Deanna, isn't it so that if you're an American citizen and you've got nothing to hide and you're not trying to make a bomb and you're not a terrorist, what do you have to worry about? Why is it such a bad thing that perhaps the United States government and George W. Bush are listening to your conversations if you've got nothing to hide? We'll come back to that in a moment, but first we've got a comment, I believe, from the audience. Vivi Katrakis.
I'm in the audience at Brookland-Cayce High School with Robin. Robin, you have a comment for our co-host.
I agree with what he just said, that if you're going to be talking to somebody, you shouldn't have anything to hide anyway. Like, an invasion of privacy is a safety precaution, and that's all it is. And if they're going to invade your privacy, they obviously should have a good reason, but if you have nothing to hide, then why would you have a problem with it anyway?
You know, I completely agree. That is actually the next point that I was going to bring up. If we have nothing to hide, then why should we care if the government's listening to our phone conversations? And, John, going back to something you said earlier, you said, you know, how would we as high school students feel if some guy, you know, in a big black suit and black sunglasses came up and tried to search our lockers because they thought we might be trying to, you know, bomb another big building in New York? I think that's taking it a little too far. I think that if we were in high school and going back again, like if we had nothing to hide, what we could possibly even worry about is having someone come up